2003, Satoshi Kon released his third feature film, Tokyo Godfathers. Set during the Christmas period, Tokyo Godfathers follows three homeless people, the alcoholic Gin, the cross-dressing Hana, and the teenage runaway Miyuki. We follow them as they unexpectedly find a newborn baby who had been left all alone on a pile of trash during Christmas Eve. From there, we watch as these three bond over this baby, which they call Kiyoko, as they travel all over Tokyo to find Kiyoko's parents. During their journey, Gin, Hana, and Miyuki all come to terms with why they became homeless. Obviously, a movie based during Christmas always follows that arc of redemption, and Satoshi Kon does not pave away from that idea. Christmas is a time of reflection because the year is at its end. It is a time to be grateful for the people you have around you and to enjoy those moments. Through the baby of Kiyoko, a miracle in the eyes of Hana, the young child somehow becomes a guide for the three of them to reflect on their time and for them to all find inner peace. Gin finds his daughter, Hana accepts her mother's wrongdoing, and Miyuki is reunited with her dad. In a way, they are all defined by their parents. Gin is a parent that runs away from his wife and daughter, Hana was abandoned by a parent, and Miyuki runs away from her parents. And because of that, the film's core themes are forgiveness and hope, and it is shown through the characters of Gin, Hana, and Miyuki. Gin finds himself homeless due to him incurring debt from gambling, and through that shame runs away from his family, leaving his wife and young daughter behind. He could not face the idea that he was a bad father and put this pressure on his family to burden such a problem that he thought the best way to save himself, and maybe more importantly to save his family, was to run away. From the outside looking in, his actions are atrocious because he left that burden on his wife, and him running away meant his daughter would grow up without a father. Gin was so ashamed by that action that he lied to Hana about his family, saying his wife and daughter died, to hide the embarrassment that he ran away. But the little baby of Kiyoko, who has the same name as Gin's daughter, was a reminder of the mistake he made in the past, and for him to give this baby back to her home, this becoming a symbolic gesture of him apologizing to his family which he abandoned. However, he finds his daughter when they cross paths at a hospital she works at, and from there, Gin can say his piece and ask for forgiveness. Throughout his journey alongside Kiyoko, Gin learns to be a father all over again. Because halfway through Tokyo Godfathers, Gin abandons Kiyoko, which parallels him abandoning his own daughter, also named Kiyoko. From that moment on, he regresses back to the father he is ashamed of. But as Gin lay down half beaten to death, he realizes how much he misses Kiyoko. Which Kiyoko, you might ask? I want to believe he wants to see both of them. Through his time with Kiyoko, he learns to be a father again. Hana is a man that cross-dresses as a woman and becomes homeless due to her also running away, but she runs away from her job as a burlesque singer at a nightclub. This is because she attacked a customer and could not face her boss, which she sees as a foster mother and even calls her mother too. Hana was also in a relationship with someone called Ken, but unfortunately Ken died by slipping on soap. So with Ken gone and her being too ashamed to go back to her foster mother, Hana also wanders the streets. But the finding of Kiyoko fills a void in her heart that was left behind when Ken died, and she becomes maternal for this child, at first wanting to keep Kiyoko and raise her as her own, but her senses come into play and she decides with Gin and Miyuki to find this child's parents, because she wants this baby to have a normal life, a life that Hana could never have because her real mother also abandoned her. For Hana, she does not want Kiyoko to follow a path of not knowing who her parents are. All she wants is Kiyoko to have happy memories. From there we see Hana at her most natural, which is being a mother to a child, something Hana cannot do because she cannot give birth, and she is also homeless. That hole that was left behind by her partner Ken dying was filled by this magical child that she believes is a miracle passed down to her by God. The dichotomy between Hana and religion is really fascinating because out of everyone, she is the one that seems closest to God and religion, but yet she is probably the one that is furthest away from what people might associate with God, because Hana is a man that does not identify as one and sees herself more as a woman. And I should preface this by saying I am not an expert in religion, but it is interesting that Satoshi Kon put the character who thinks Kiyoko is a miracle by God as a crossdresser. And to Hana's credit, she is unapologetic of who she is. She is someone to look up to in a way because she is comfortable with her image and does not let that become a weakness. She shows strength and loveliness and becomes a character that even Miyuki follows. Hana becomes a definition of if you're happy and not hurting anyone, then live your life. And I bring that part of her story up because her being a crossdresser in other movies would be a vulnerability, something that brings doubt in her mind about her identity, but Satoshi Kon instead makes that her strong point. She even jokes that if her real mother saw her now, she would freak out. Hana's real vulnerability is her issue with being abandoned. This is why she feels strongly towards Kiyoko and finding her parents, because she cannot understand how someone would throw away her life. For Hana, she wants to find Kiyoko's parents because if Kiyoko's mother has a good enough reason for abandoning the child, then maybe that would give her self-closure for her own mother abandoning her, saying that if she can forgive Kiyoko's parents, then she herself can forgive her own mother. Miyuki is a child that runs away from her home after stabbing her own father. She did this because she felt like she was not being listened to and had no option to run away after she committed that act. She is a character that represents the tragedy of being homeless at such a young age, because she feels that she had no choice but to run away. The notion of going back home was never an option, and that is the tragedy, because we see that her father is open for her to come back. But her stubbornness, which was highlighted early in the movie by Gin, is what stops her from that choice. She becomes the other spectrum to Gin. Gin was a parent that runs away from his child, and Miyuki was the child that runs away from her parent. And her story is about how anyone can be homeless. Gin, Hana, Miyuki, and even Kiyoko are homeless. Homelessness does not just affect one spectrum, it affects a straight man, a gay man, a teenager, or even a child that had no choice. And Miyuki, who goes far and beyond to find Kiyoko's parents, with her literally risking her life, actively hides away from her own parents who want her back home. How Miyuki looks at Kiyoko is how us, the audience, look at her. Someone who needs to go home. It is only when her dad happens to cross Miyuki at the very end can she understand the importance of her running away. Just as Miyuki brought Kiyoko back to her parents, Kiyoko brought Miyuki back to hers. Kiyoko becomes a symbol of hope for our three homeless characters. Because of her and the three of them travelling all over Tokyo to find their parents, it led to all three, Gin, Hana and Miyuki, to resolve their issues. Gin found his daughter, Hana accepted her mother's actions, and Miyuki was reunited with her dad. Kiyoko becomes a representation of Gin's daughter and his mistake to leave his family behind. Kiyoko becomes a representation of Hana herself as she was left behind by her parents. And Kiyoko becomes a representation of a home that Miyuki ran away from. So, what does Kiyoko represent to you?